February 16, 1943, 25,000 feet above Regensburg, Germany. The air inside the B-17, Lucky Strike, is so cold that breathing feels like swallowing glass. Staff Sergeant Michael Kowalski can't feel his feet anymore. Hasn't been able to for the past 40 minutes. He's crouched in the ball turret, beneath the bomber's belly, a sphere of plexiglass and twin 50 caliber machine guns, barely wide enough for his shoulders. The turret rotates with a mechanical whine as he scans the sky below, his breath crystallizing instantly on the inside of his oxygen mask, forming a thin crust of ice that cracks when he moves his jaw. The thermometer reads -42 degrees Fahrenheit. His leather gloves, standard issue, designed more for grip than warmth, might as well be tissue paper. He flexes his fingers around the gun controls, forcing blood into the tips, fighting the numbness that creeps up from his knuckles. He learned on the second mission, if you let your hands go completely numb, you won't be able to pull the trigger when the wolves come. And they always come. Above him, separated by a thin sheet of aluminum and insulation that does almost nothing, Lieutenant James Hendricks sits in the cockpit with both hands locked on the yoke. His co-pilot, Second Lieutenant Robert Chen, monitors the instruments with eyes that burn from exhaustion and dry air. They've been in formation for 3 hours now, holding position in a tight combat box with 23 other fortresses. The autopilot helps, but at this altitude, with winds shearing across the formation at unpredictable intervals, a human hand has to stay on the controls. Hendricks' oxygen mask hisses with each breath, a rhythm he's trained himself not to think about. Thinking about it means thinking about the hose. The rubber hose running from the mask to the oxygen system. The hose that, if it tears, if it freezes and cracks, if a piece of shrapnel cuts it, gives him maybe 15 seconds before hypoxia sets in, 30 seconds before unconsciousness, 2 minutes before brain damage. He doesn't think about the hose. In the waist of the aircraft, Technical Sergeant Raymond Foster stamps his feet against the metal floor, a useless gesture against the cold, but one he can't stop making. He's one of 2 waist gunners, positioned at open windows on either side of the fuselage. Open windows, at 25,000 feet, in February. The wind screams through the gun ports at 180 miles per hour, a constant roar that makes communication nearly impossible even through the intercom. Foster's face is wrapped in a scarf beneath his oxygen mask, goggles over his eyes, fleece-lined cap under his helmet. He's wearing every layer the Army Air Forces issued him: long underwear, wool uniform, heated suit plugged into the aircraft's electrical system, leather jacket over that, and still the cold finds its way in. It seeps through zippers, creeps past collars, burrows into any gap in the armor of fabric and leather. His heated suit stopped working an hour ago. Electrical failure somewhere in the system. He reported it to Hendricks. Nothing to be done. The mission continues. Across from him, Sergeant Donald Price mans the other waist gun, and Foster can see the ice forming on Price's oxygen mask, thick white frost that obscures half his face. Price catches him looking and gives a thumbs up, the only communication possible over the engine roar and wind. Foster returns it, though his thumb barely moves inside the stiff glove. In the radio room, Technical Sergeant William Hayes hunches over his equipment, fingers fumbling with frozen dials. He's one of the lucky ones. His compartment is slightly more sheltered than the waist. Though sheltered is a relative term in a B-17. He's already treated 2 cases of frostbite this morning. The tail gunner, Staff Sergeant Eugene Kramer, who spent 10 minutes in his isolated position before reporting he couldn't feel his toes, and the top turret gunner, who made the mistake of touching bare metal with his bare hand when adjusting his gun. The skin stuck, tore away when he pulled back. Hayes carries morphine syrettes in his jacket, but he's terrified of using them. In this cold, with men already on the edge of consciousness from oxygen deprivation and exhaustion, the line between pain relief and fatal overdose is impossibly thin. The intercom crackles. Hendrick's voice, distorted and metallic, navigator pilot. Time to initial point. In the nose, First Lieutenant Marcus Webb checks his charts with hands that shake from cold, not fear, though there's plenty of that too. 12 minutes, skipper. 12 minutes to IP. Then 6 minutes to target. By 18 minutes. 18 minutes until they reach the weapons factory at Regensburg. 18 minutes until the bomb bay doors open and they become even more vulnerable than they already are. 18 minutes until the flak becomes heavy. Kowalski rotates the ball turret another 15 degrees, scanning. The formation around them is holding. Contrails streaming behind each fortress like white scars across the blue, black sky. Beautiful. If you don't think about what it means. The contrails mark their position for every German radar station and fighter base within 200 miles. His oxygen mask hisses. Ice cracks and reforms with each breath. Below, somewhere in those clouds, German anti-aircraft crews are already tracking them, calculating altitude, speed, trajectory, loading shells the size of fire extinguishers, each one designed to explode into thousands of white, hot fragments at a precise altitude. The cold is terrible, but the cold isn't the worst part. The worst part announces itself at 947 hours, with a sound like thunder being torn in half. The first flak burst appears 200 yards ahead of the formation, a black flower blooming instantly in the sky, petals of smoke expanding outward, core burning orange for a split second before dissipating. Then another. Another. Within seconds, the sky ahead transforms into a garden of explosions, each one spaced with mathematical precision at exactly 25,000 feet. Flak. 12 o'clock level. The call comes from Webb in the nose. Unnecessary because everyone can see it. Everyone's already seeing it. But training demands the call, and training is all that keeps them functional. Hendricks grips the yoke tighter. His instinct, every pilot's instinct, screams at him to dive, to turn, to take evasive action. But the doctrine is absolute. He maintained formation. The bombing solution requires steady flight. The defensive coverage requires tight spacing. Break formation and you're alone. Alone means dead. So he flies straight into it. The next burst is closer, near enough that the concussion rocks the aircraft. A physical punch that rattles instruments and shakes metal. Kowalski feels it through the entire ball turret. A shudder that travels through the guns, the frame, his body. Shrapnel pings against the bomber's skin, small pieces, none penetrating, not yet. Then the barrage finds its range. The B-17 to their right, Made in America, piloted by Captain Dennis Shaw, takes a direct hit beneath the number 3 engine. The explosion is instantaneous, catastrophic. The wing doesn't tear away gradually. It simply ceases to exist in that configuration. Metal shreds. Fuel ignites. The fortress rolls inverted and begins the long fall, spinning, pieces coming away, black smoke trailing. Kowalski watches from the ball turret, has the best view of anyone, sees the belly of Made in America as it tumbles past, sees the ball turret gunner. Sergeant Tim Rodriguez played poker with him last week, trapped in his sphere. still rotating, still alive, falling in his glass coffin toward the earth 5 miles below. Shoots. Chen's voice on the intercom, tight and high. I count 2, no 3 shoots! Maiden America carried 10 men. 3 shoots. The formation doesn't waver. Can't waver. Lucky Strike holds position. Slides slightly right to fill the gap. Closes the box. Hendricks' hands are steady on the yoke, even though his heart is trying to break through his ribs. The flak intensifies. It comes in waves, patterns, a curtain of explosions that the formation must fly through because there is no around, no over, no under. German radar has them locked. German gunners have the altitude perfect. The shells burst in clusters. Black puffs in groups of 4, 6, 8, each one throwing shrapnel in a sphere of death 30 yards across. In the waist, Foster feels the impact before he hears it. Something punches through the fuselage 18 inches from his head. A jagged piece of steel moving at supersonic speed, tearing through aluminum like cloth, passing through the aircraft, and out the other side, missing Price by less than a foot. The hole it leaves is the size of a fist. Wind screams through it, adding to the chaos of noise and cold. Price looks at the hole, looks at Foster. Neither man moves from his gun. Another burst directly beneath them. The aircraft jumps upward, drops, stabilizes. Hendricks fights the controls. Something in the tail section makes a sound like a gong being struck, a deep resonant clang that reverberates through the airframe. Tail gunner, check in. Hendricks on the intercom. Silence. Kramer, check in, static. Then, finally, weak tails hit. I'm okay. Guns still. His voice cuts out. Comes back. Still operational. He's not okay. No one who says they're okay in that voice is actually okay. But okay enough to stay at his station, and that's all that matters for the next 6 minutes. The bombardier, Second Lieutenant Arthur Klein, is prone in the nose beside Webb, eye pressed to the Norden bomb site, making minute adjustments. The bomb site cost more than a house, represents some of the most sophisticated technology in the American arsenal, and right now it's being used while flak bursts close enough to spray shrapnel against the plexiglass nose. A crack appears in the glass beside Klein's head. Spiderwebs across his field of view. He ignores it, keeps adjusting. Bomb bay doors open, he says, voice eerily calm. The doors grind open beneath the fuselage, adding drag, slowing the aircraft slightly, making it even more vulnerable. The formation slows with them, every bomber opening doors in sequence. Kowalski, still in the ball turret, now has a perfect view straight up into the bomb bay. 2,500-pound bombs hanging in their racks, each one painted olive drab, stenciled with warnings and lot numbers. If flak hits those, Lucky Strike won't fall. It'll simply become a brief sun in the sky, vaporizing crew and aircraft in the same instant. He stops looking up. 30 seconds. Klein announces. The flak somehow gets worse. The Germans know this is the critical moment. Know the bombers can't deviate, throw everything at the formation. The sky turns black with bursts. The B-17 3 positions ahead takes hits in rapid succession. One explosion blossoms where the cockpit used to be, and the bomber pitches forward into a dive, nose down, already dead, falling through the formation. Lucky Strike banks 5 degrees left. The first evasive movement Hendricks has allowed himself to avoid collision. 10 seconds. A Foster sees the bomber to their left streaming fuel from a punctured tank. A glittering mist in the sunlight that will ignite if a single piece of hot shrapnel finds it. 5 seconds. A haze. In the radio room, braces himself against his desk. realizes his hands are shaking. Can't tell if it's from cold or fear or both. Bombs away. The aircraft lurches upward as 5 tons of explosives drop free, the sudden weight loss giving them lift. All across the formation, bombs fall in a carefully calculated pattern, tumbling toward the factory complex below, toward the workers and machinery and buildings that are the reason 10 men are currently dying above Germany. Bomb bay doors closed. Let's get the hell out of here. Hendricks banks the aircraft, begins the turn that will take them west, toward France, toward England, toward home, assuming they make it. The flak follows them through the turn, tracking, pursuing, killing. Another fort goes down to their right, this one breaking apart gradually, tail section separating, men spilling out like seeds from a pod, some with chutes, some without. The statistics run through Hendricks' mind unbidden, the numbers everyone knows, but no one talks about. In 1943, the average crew has a 1 in 4 chance of completing 25 missions. 25 missions to complete a tour. They're on number 7, 18 more to go. The flak begins to thin as they leave the target area, the bursts less frequent, less accurate. But it doesn't stop. Won't stop until they're 50 miles clear, and 50 miles is another 15 minutes, and 15 minutes is an eternity when every second might contain the shell with your name on it. Kowalski rotates the ball turret, scanning for fighters now, because the flak stopping means German fighters incoming. Wolves gathering to pick off the wounded bombers, trailing smoke and fuel. The formation has gaps now, holes where fortresses used to fly. He counts positions. Started with 24 aircraft. Counts 19 now. 5 gone in 12 minutes. 50 men. His oxygen mask hisses. Ice cracks with each breath. His feet are still numb. Might stay numb, might be frostbitten beyond saving, but that's a problem for the ground. Up here, at 25,000 feet, in a metal tube filled with holes and blood, and the smell of hydraulic fluid and fear. The only problem is the next minute, and the minute after that. The B-17 flying fortress earned its name from the outside, from the ground, where it looked invincible. Inside, wrapped in frozen metal and thin hope, every crew member knows the truth. It's a coffin that sometimes makes it home. And today, if they're lucky, if the fighters don't come, if the engines hold, if no one passes out from oxygen deprivation, if the wounded don't bleed out, if the fuel lasts, today, Lucky Strike might be one of them. Hendricks points the nose west and flies toward a horizon that's still 2 hours and 300 miles away. The bomber shakes. The cold presses in. The crew endures, because that's all they can do. But Lucky Strike's story didn't end there. When they finally touched down in England that afternoon, the ground crew counted 87 holes in the fuselage. The hydraulics were shot. One engine was barely running, and the tail gunner, Kramer, had been flying the last hour unconscious from blood loss. His crewmates didn't know until they pulled him out. He survived that day. But here's the question nobody asks. What happened on mission number 8? The records show something the history books won't tell you. Something about that crew, that bomber, and a decision made at 28,000 feet that changed everything. We found the declassified reports. We found the mission logs. And we found what they tried to bury. Want to know what really happened to the crews who made it past mission 7? This is WW2 Forgotten 45, where we uncover the stories they left out of the textbooks. Hit subscribe, because the story of Lucky Strike is far from over. And next time, we're going into the belly of the beast. the mission that had a 90% loss rate, and the men who flew it anyway. Don't miss it.